Our newest campaign ship has arrived in the form of a German Tier 8 supercruiser, Ägir. It is Siegfried's sister ship, so you may note the hulls are basically identical, with a different gun setup though. Siegfried has 6 380mm guns in a Gneisenau kind of fashion, and Ägir has 9 305s. I'm not sure whether or not this should be surprising, but they're actually quite accurate. They have a 2.05 Sigma rating, and I would assume battlecruiser dispersion. I found the guns on Ägir to be quite consistent and pretty comfortable feeling. Since we have quite a few of these so-called super cruisers here now, I was curious about their guns and how they kind of compare. We have had 3 tier 8 campaigns that were super cruisers. Ägir AP performs really well at closer ranges, and still at 10 kilometers it's better than most of the competition, but at longer ranges these German guns are going to lose penetration faster than similar sized guns of other nations. So something to put in your back pocket there. And also another quick look at similar 305mm gun ships. 20 seconds of reload seems to be the gold standard, unless you're Carnot. And then you just get a garbage reload time for no good reason at all. Like seriously, no torpedoes, no radar, no thank you. Ägir, you may also notice, comes with a powerful sonar and a secondary targeting module. I believe it's the only cruiser in the game to have one of those. So before we cream this buffalo again, let's go look at the build. I built this ship for accuracy, acceleration, stealth, and gun reload. As for commanders, I'm probably going to be sticking with Gunther Lutjens for his mix of mobility and gun focus. And for some different inspirations, I know I'm kind of in a rut with my Karl von Mueller and Makawa inspos. This time around, Lightful and Regerwald. Although I had some very good games with Makawa and Lightful as well. Having a ship with this powerful of guns and a 11.3 kilometer detection by sea rating is pretty darn strong. And with Lightful, your detection after firing is reduced, so you disappear from enemies faster. Whatever commander you go with, because there are a ton, Hipper, Regerwald, blah blah blah, Muller, Ingenious is really the best option you can have in skill slot 1. It will shave nearly 10 seconds off of your turret traverse time, and that might be a personal preference, but I find it very helpful, especially with Ägir. So I'm going to throw my first game stats up on the screen, and they look bad. They really do. But this game will kind of highlight that no matter how hard you play, win rate isn't everything, because you're going to lose games. Like, you just can't win, I don't know, 20 to 30% of the games, no matter what you do or what banger you have. You can't win them all. I think in another 30 to 40 games, the stats of the ship would reflect what the ship really is, and that is quite strong. But yeah, for now, that's what the stats look like. Anyways, we are on northern waters. We spawn over by sea, and after watching what most of the Reds do, we opted to try to stay in close and support our Hayate. I chose this one because it highlights one of the 2 main ways, as I see it, of playing this ship. One, aggressive brawling. It's what most people are going to want to do. Sail in at high speed and use those forward torpedoes, right? Or the other method, which is what I would consider the best way to play it, a patient mid-range support ship. And that is what I'm currently doing. We went for the flank. We didn't get spotted a single time coming over here, so we figured we could make a sneaky play against their support cruiser, the Buffalo. So that worked out in our favor. Now the Pommern is really screwing up our plans here. Because of him pushing through middle and our team not stopping him, I'm having to go back. We couldn't push forward and stay in a crossfire. So anyways, good play to this Pommern by doing this. He almost collapsed our whole flank here. So the game in the background, again, it's going to showcase a pretty decent game, a cool 200k, and I'll be like Aaron and go ahead and call this the world damage record for today. Someone will break it tomorrow or in 5 weeks when people actually get this ship. But anyways, Ägir seems to have it all, starting with being a fairly tanky ship, 3rd in class when it comes to HP pools, and 2 pretty decent heals to boot. The torpedo reduction, it's something that I often gloss over on ship reviews, especially on cruisers, because none of them really have great torp reduction, but the Ägir has 37%. That's pretty nuts for a cruiser. It might be one of the best in the game for a cruiser, and pardon me, I looked through the tier 8s and it was the best, but I didn't look through the rest of the ships in the game. Yeah, if I had more free time. Anyways, on to the armor. Not a ton to complain about with Ägir's armor, except for the massive 27mm nose. It seems to attract all sorts of enemy AP shells, kind of like the Siegfried. Beyond that though, strong citadel belt and a 90mm upper belt, just like the Siegfried. That's crazy for a cruiser, that's really awesome. And she also has a 30mm deck, which is pretty good. That is worse than Carnot's 36mm deck, but better than Kronstadt's 27mm deck. So not bad. And to finish it all off, a turtleback armor scheme. I found this ship relatively tanky, except of course against Yamatos, or if you're doing stupid things, brawling, and get too close to, I don't know, a Maine or a Montana with super heavy American AP. But other than that, a fairly tanky ship. The guns, like we mentioned, 2.05 Sigma. That is a great grouping number, and these guns feel comfortable. It's kind of like what you would want the Odin to do when you're playing Odin at tier 7, but of course it would be OP if Odin was this accurate. But these 305s feel great. I didn't really complain or gripe about the accuracy so much as my potato gameplay, and with a 20-second base reload, you're reloading relatively fast enough that you can keep slinging shells downrange and rack up a decent amount of damage pretty quick. We're already at 100k. On the build here in the background, my reload was about 17 seconds, but you could put refill station, use Membelli, and you could get the reload better, probably 15 seconds. I don't see why not if you did full reload. The AP DPM is slightly worse than that of the Kronstadt, but of course it is better than the Carnot. Higher damage games in Ägir were not really that hard to come by, and that brings me to the shell times. Since this is German, the German HE doesn't deal a ton of damage. In fact, Ibuki shells deal 50 more damage apiece, even though there are only 203s. But again, since these are German shells, they pen 76mm of armor, which is quite a lot, and the fire chance of 27% is better than the Kronstadt and the Carnot. So HE is an option, but really it's best to go to flanks, create crossfires, and make your own magic. So the game back here, it's going horribly. Teaching moment here, I just needed the Yuga mode to spot for me. That's really all I needed. But anyways, we briefly got a visual on the Bayard. We took a predictive shot where I think he was going to go, and it paid off. Yeah. But still, it's not really looking like we're going to be able to win this game, but I am going to die trying. Secondaries on Ägir, they're actually 6.3 kilometers base. That's way above average, so I suppose they are mildly helpful against destroyers and other ships in close, but I definitely wouldn't spec into them or, use any skills or inspos or anything like that. If you meme build it, let me know though. That sounds like it could be interesting, but not competitive. Torpedoes, yep, you have them. They're the same old German 6km torps that we know and love. They're nice when you're getting rushed, and they're great to run down a solo battleship at the end of a match, but mostly I would forget about them and focus on the guns. Players get themselves into trouble more often than not, just when they know that they have torpedoes. On to a stat that is very useful, and that is AA. I feel like I had carrier matches 50 to 60% of the games that I played, and Ägir does really, really well in this department. Actually, one of the better AA DPSs at the tier. It's nice to be able to get revenge on enemy CVs, I have to say. Speed. Ägir is quick for a big ship, 33.5 knots. It's actually pretty average for the tier, but I mean, for a big boat, it's pretty nice to be almost going 34 knots base. The rudder shift is slow, as you might imagine, and the turning circle is huge. So it's not a very nimble ship. It's one of the reasons I like Lutjens with full speed ahead and Velocious. It helps make up for some of the weaknesses here. If you're getting heavily focused, you can try to sail away quickly, or you can use it to run down ships. I like having a fast ship. I see it as one of the most useful traits in the game. As for playing her, like mentioned, you can choose to send it or opt for a more patient approach, like we're doing in this game, where you try to position well, setting up crossfires like we are here with our Yugamo, hoping that he's going to torp them and then I can shoot their broadsides. That is going to be a big part of the gameplay with Ägir. But now let's take a break from our regularly scheduled program to show you what a good push can look like. For this to work, it's all about reading the map. So right now I can see, if I look at the minimap, These two destroyers don't have any support ships that can help them. There's no battleships right behind them that are going to shoot me and nuke me. It is just me and these two tin cans and my sonar. The sonar of Ägir is a strong 120 second long 5.7 kilometer detection range sonar. It can help make mincemeat of destroyers and help us avoid torpedoes, kind of like this. Although keep in mind the ship is not very agile. So you want to have your spidey senses on high alert when you're doing pushes like this. The secondaries, I mean, they're kind of useful, it looks like, but mostly it's going to come down to just using these HE shells. And again, watching the map. Notice how we're using the terrain to make sure the main over there can't shoot me. Anyways, back to our match, where we're going to finally finish off the Amagi. So, Ägir. Let's do a quick summary. It's tanky, it has powerful guns with decent accuracy, pretty good accuracy actually, a strong sonar, good AA, torpedoes for backup, and amazing torpedo reduction. Overall, it's a strong contender at tier 8, even if my game stats don't prove it. Yet. I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder about that, and hopefully on the next stream I can show some better statistics. As for the 3 tier 8 supercruisers from campaigns that we have got, I would still likely call the Kronstadt the most powerful, the most competitive, but Ägir is now my favorite. It's just a playstyle that I seem to resonate with, it mesh well with, it's very, very fun. And I was actually surprised to find the same thing out about the Siegfried. A week or two ago, I went back and reviewed that ship and made a video. You can check it out. And I really enjoyed the ship, even though I had for a long time called it the worst tier 7 cruiser. I mean, really, it's a battleship, not a cruiser. But these ships, they're probably not the easiest to play. Ägir, Siegfried. There are more simple, stronger, more straightforward ships like Yamato, Shimakaze, and Des Moines, and they're straight up going to have an advantage just because of how simple and easy they are to play. So be careful. But if you're an experienced battle cruiser or large cruiser player, Ägir is a bit of a beast. Given all of her attributes, I'm going to give the ship 4 out of 5 stars. It is a fun playstyle to get into the right firing positions, wreak havoc, and then dip out. It's very frustrating to enemy players when you just keep disappearing every 20 seconds, and again, that's kind of how I would advocate playing it until at the end of the match you just have to push and brawl like this. Speaking of, I've bragged on the accuracy of this ship, and then these 2 salvos against the main here are going to be very, very disappointing. But again, there's 2 minutes left. Yugi's capturing D. They have 2 DDs up to the north of me. It's definitely a loss, but at least we're going to clean up the main, and then I'm going to turn and see if I can get the destroyers. I think this ship is a blast to play. Honestly, I didn't expect to like it as much as I have, but looking at the most recent campaign ships, this is probably my favorite. We had the Republic and the Hayate. Those were cracked. We had the Kronstadt and the Musashi. Those were also very good. Then we had the Marco and the Marlborough, which were just decent. Pommern, Carnot, Awami, and now the Ägir. So again, Repub, Hayate, they were very, very good, super competitive. Kronstadt and Musashi were close in there as well. Awami and Marco I would call decent, not bad, but not amazing. And I like the Marlborough as well, but she has glaring weaknesses, obviously, the biggest citadel in the game. And then the Carnot, which I still enjoy, she just isn't that strong. Finally, the Pommern, which I think is useless in a world where the Prince Ruprecht exists. But Ägir is probably going to the top of my tier 8 favorite list right now, and I'm surprised to hear myself say that, but it is what it is. So we took some torps. Yeah, the ship is not very agile, even with sonar. So yeah, the game is a complete loss. I probably didn't have the DPM to take out a full health Hayate anyways, unless he ate a torp, which he's going to try to eat a torp. But yeah, that is going to be the end of this game. I am very curious to hear what you guys think of this campaign ship and the update so far. So yeah, leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you. Also, if this video provided value to you, please leave me a like and consider subscribing so that you don't miss any future content. And that is going to wrap up this tragic loss, which 2200 base on a loss, it was decent. If I somehow could have pulled it off and killed both of those DDs, it would have been a heck of a game. But anyways, it was a loss. I'll try and get good. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.